what's going on? Coach Luca back here with a little bit of a coach's corner. And what we're going to talk about today is recovery, but think of it recovery from a standpoint of how do we get as much recovery from one training session to the next, right? One of the things that you can see in training is that people really focus on the training, meaning how many days a week am I going to work out? What's my breakdown of program design going to be? Is it going to be lower, upper, 3 full body sessions? I'm going to do max effort method. I'm going to do sprints, jumps, so on and so forth. Obviously very, very important, right? And important to not only structure a program that's going to fit your goals, your lifestyle, so that you can recover from it. Because that's an important part, right? If we do too much volume, too much intensity that we can't recover from, we're going to run into a problem, okay? But this is the other aspect of it, which is the recovery side. And today specifically, I want to talk about what happens, after a training session, during training session, and how you specifically can speed up your recovery and get yourself into what's called a recovery state. And we're going to talk about what that is, okay? Because when you're in a recovery state, that's when good things happen. When you build muscle, those tissues rebuild, right? And you go into super compensation. But let's first look at the process of recovery, right? Because there's two things that got to happen that are going to help us build our tissues, change in a positive direction. And first is like we have to have, when we're training, we're in a sympathetic state, right? Fight or flight. Now that's a catabolic event, meaning like muscle tissue breakdown, right? We're breaking down tissue, we're breaking things down. And so first thing after a session, and a big mistake that a lot of folks make is, for example, they'll do a hard training session for legs, session is done, they just walk out the door, jump in their car, and start driving home, for instance, right? Well, you're not allowing your sympathetic system now to start coming down, right? Because step one is we want to get that system, so your heart rate, your blood pressure, your adrenaline, your cortisol, your blood glucose, we want that to start coming down, okay? Because there's two phases to this, right? There's a fast component of recovery, and then there's the slow component of recovery, okay? So the fast one is first, we got to get that system to start coming down, right? That sympathetic system. Because only then can we go to part two. So, and we'll talk a little bit about this later in the strategies to do that, but this is really important to understand. Because the slower that this happens, the longer it's going to take for you to get into this recovery state where you can rebuild tissues and actually get the results that you're looking for, right? Then part two is our parasympathetic state, right? Which is where digestion and absorption goes up, muscle glycogen, anabolic hormones are floating, right? Because here we have catabolic hormones, here we have anabolic hormones, protein synthesis, and then enzyme activity. It's all the things that are going to help us rebuild tissues to be stronger, and I guess bigger muscles, mitochondria gets built up, whatever it is that we're training to achieve. And so when we can reduce sympathetic mode and then bump up parasympathetic mode, then we get supercompensation, right? Supercompensation is what we all want, right? We lift so that our muscles adapt and get stronger. Now, what this does, when we do these two things, we get into the recovery state. Or should I say, that is the goal in between sessions, is to get into that state as fast as possible, okay? What is the recovery state? What happens in it? It's actually all these different things, right? There's more circulating amino acids. Our glycogen stores are full, right? And like I said, muscle glycogen, you guys have heard of it. It's what gets used also for energy. Low stress hormones, right? So we are more calm, more chill, okay? Then we have improved blood flow, increased protein synthesis, which is what's needed obviously to build and repair muscle, elevated anabolic hormones, and then high PNS function, that's our parasympathetic function. Okay, so again, when we are in this state is when we're rebuilding and great things are happening, and that's what we want. Now, this is a little bit of like the science behind it, but what I wanted to do is flip around real quick and show you guys, like 2 ways to speed up recovery. So one is relaxation. And relaxation is reducing sympathetic function, right? So we just talked about that, and we want to bring that down, which is catabolic, which is breaking our muscles down. So we don't want that. And it's shifting to more of a parasympathetic state, so the recovery state, right? So that's step one. And it's used during post-training phases, so either 1 to 4 hours after your training, in times of high stress. The reason why we use it in times of high stress, because we want to get out of that catabolic state, right? So if we're in a very high stress mode, remember, take away training, just high stress in life is still stressful, right? The system doesn't necessarily, stress on the nervous system is stress on the nervous system, whether it's from work, from life, from training, okay? So these are the strategies that we use in the post-training, I would say, time zone, right? Or it's time frame, okay? Part two is stimulation. So in the stimulation phase, what we're doing here is like, we actually want a short spike, which is called hormesis, right, of the sympathetic activation. So that means that like we actually want to spike that fight or flight just a little bit, right? We want to dose it a little bit, because what that's going to do is going to promote blood flow, circulation, and then trigger recovery. So this is how the body works, right? If we create something that's stressful and sympathetic, our bodies are going to kick us into that recovery parasympathetic state. But just like anything else, like, the poison's in the dose, or should I say the medicine is in the dose, right? So if you do too much of it, right, too much of any of this will just be more stressful and take you longer to recover. And so that's why we'll talk about how much, some examples. I mean, this is definitely individual, but the relaxation happens after the training session. The stimulation happens in between training sessions. So as an example, let's say on Monday, I'm doing a hard lower body session. Max effort, lower body day, I'm trap bar deadlifting, Bulgarian split squats, glute drive, sprints, jumps, sled pushes, so on and so forth, right? On Monday after the training session, I would work on getting into the relaxation phase. On Tuesday, maybe the stimulation phase, because it's the day after a really hard session, and I'm trying to stimulate recovery, okay? And so some examples, there's a lot more here, but I wanted to give you guys some of the examples that you can use here, and I'll give you actual strategic steps to implement this and some of the things that I do here, right? So in the relaxation phase, now you'll see soft tissue methods fall into both relaxation and stimulation. Why? Well, because again, it's in the dose. So if you guys have ever done a very aggressive, like Swedish massage, deep tissue massage, sports massage, it can be pretty damn aggressive, right? So that might fall into, again, either stimulation or relaxation. Do you want something more relaxing, which could be even percussion guns like, Theragun, things like that vibration technology, and you just go lighter, right? But if I go more aggressive, now it could be stimulating. Things like, for instance, Graston, right, where we're scraping tissue, that's pretty aggressive, right? That's going to create some damage. So we have to understand that some things can be, but you can also have a relaxing massage, which is a lot less stressful, that might fall here, right? Or you have light foam rolling, which is, I'm a big fan of in this relaxation phase. So after you're done with the training session, lighter foam rolling, some body tempering, right? Where we're putting like a heavy load on our tissues and then taking it off so the blood rushes in. So again, right? Like the more aggressive we go, it might fall into one or the other. So that's why it's kind of split here. But if we look at the relaxation part, meditation, relaxation strategies. So whether it's Headspace, a Calm app, or just in general, you do breathing techniques to relax and meditate. Another one for me here too is being out in nature, which is proven, right? Like if I'm in nature, I'm walking, that can be very calming and go into sympathetic mode. It's low, I would say low stress, low activity, right? So it's not intense. So that would fall in here too. But what are the meditation, relaxation activities that you can bring your heart rate down, bring your blood pressure down, right? Again, when we look on the other side, like we can stimulate that, or should we say we can relax through those strategies here. Number two is deep water floating and swimming. So you guys have heard of float tanks and things like that. Sometimes people get a little stressed out at the beginning in those. Might not be the best option, but swimming is excellent because it deloads your tissues. It deloads your joints, right, because your body weighs less. And then on top of that, what you can do is you can obviously end up having more circulation, more blood flow through those things. So this would be another one that could be where, later on in the day, you end up going to the pool and doing like light things that's going to kick you into that relaxation. Hot water therapy, hot showers, hot tubs. Again, this is where kind of the magic is in the dose, right? So if you spend 30 minutes in a hot tub, that might not be the best option, but enough to, again, just bring you down, relax you. Like for instance, infrared saunas, where the heat is not extreme, again, could be something that does that. Once we go into stimulation mode, now we have active recovery. Now, active recovery, one of my favorite things here is the rebound workout. Now, I've done a whole vlog on the exact breakdown of a rebound workout because the rebound workout is made to stimulate recovery. So in that, if you guys have seen and go back to one of the vlogs on YouTube where I break that down, we have breathing exercises and positional breathing, right? So not only do we kind of align joints, but we bring that central nervous system down. Number two is like mobility drills, and then we're gonna do some aerobic work, right? So somewhere in that 70, 85% of heart rate range, that's getting you sweating, getting you going, but it's only stimulating recovery. It's not hard enough to create more stress. And then we're gonna do some lifting, but very low volume, very low reps, just to stimulate blood flow into the muscles and kick us into that, again, that recovery mode, right? And we stimulate to kick us into that recovery mode. So the rebound workout, like I said, check it out. That's, to me, is one of those things that's active recovery. You also see me doing videos where I'll come in and do 20, 30 minutes of mobility flows, things that make my joints feel good. I'm gonna get that blood flowing. I'm gonna get my heart rate up, but not a lot, right? I'm gonna be in that 130, 40, 50 beats per minute at most, and it's gonna stimulate recovery. And then from there, we have like cold water immersion. Now, one of the mistakes that you see people make is, right after training, so if I'm training really, really hard, there's gonna be inflammation. But inflammation is not bad because it stimulates change, right? We want inflammation. So if we're gonna do a lot of cold water immersion right after training and our goal is to build strength and build muscle, maybe that's not the best idea because, again, we're gonna now reduce inflammation and we want that in that case. But it can make sense to stimulate the following day, or I would say before the next training session, because that's gonna kick us into that recovery mode. Now, again, you have to decide on the dose, and if you look up, Huberman Lab did a lot of studies on this, like 12 total minutes per week, which can be split up in many different ways. The way that I used to do this and still do is a contrast therapy, where I'll go to a hot sauna and stay in a hot sauna for about 10 minutes, do cold water immersion for about 2.5. A good ratio is 3 or 4 to 1, so hot to cold, and I'll repeat that 2 to 4 times, right? And that would be a stimulate day on a day where I'm not training to recover from it, right? So whether it's just cold water immersion by itself or contrast therapy, those are good strategies, like I said, on stimulate days. But again, let me repeat this, okay? You wanna make sure, I prefer to start slower and progress than just go, all in ham on those strategies. And then it's so stressful that actually it's preventing you from recovering, right? So just understand that, like, a perfect example of what I'm talking about here is this. If it's your first year of training and you want to build muscle, it might not be the best idea to go 6 days a week of hour and a half of lifting, because that's too much and you're putting a lot of work and you're not recovering from that, right? Maybe a 3-day-a-week full body program that's 50 to 60 minutes long, even 45 minutes long, is going to get you a lot of results because you can recover from that. Well, it's the same thing when it comes to, I would say, recovery strategies. If you haven't done any much stuff, just jumping straight into, 32-degree water for minutes at a time, getting completely crushed is not going to help you recover more. So you got to find what works for you, and again, that's going to be just the right amount. And some of this is experimentation. Again, if you have a coach, it's always great because you can outline these methods because they understand it a little bit better and they know you better, and that way, you're going to get the best results possible. So I'll finish off with this: that you have to intentionally think about recovery, right? So if I'm training very, very hard and I'm not thinking about recovery and not getting myself, number one, into the relaxation state as fast as possible and then stimulating that recovery faster, right? I'm actually gonna not see as good of a results, because we can only grow and progress as much as we can recover from our training. And so here's the goal of looking at this and going like, hey, am I doing this? Am I implementing these strategies into my own training so that I can actually progress faster and get the best results possible from the work that I'm putting in? And then if not, implement it, start putting strategies in there so that you can get better results. And Coach Luke, I'll see you in the next Coach's Corner. Peace out.